And welcome to Across the Valley. I am your host, Brooke Hernandez. Today we have a special guest with us. We have Jennifer Woodward, FDNP with a Master's in Functional Nutrition. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brooke.
I'm so excited to talk with you today about all things nutrition.
Yeah.
What I want to start with though is tell me a little about just kind of how you got into functional nutrition, because it is kind of a unique specialty within the nutrition space, and I'd love to just educate our listeners and readers or viewers, if we've got those today, educate them about what this is, because I think people think of a dietitian or a nutritionist, they don't understand what this functional word is, and kind of new things. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I like that you kind of delineate that, because what we say with functional nutrition is you're basically trying to move the body from a state of dysfunction to a state of function. So that's kind of the gist of what functional means.
Okay.
Yep. And we look at a root cause approach. So instead of diagnostics, I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose, treat, or prescribe, right? Yep. But instead of something that's diagnostic, we look at root cause, like what's going on with your hormones and your detoxification system and your gut health and your thyroid, and how can we kind of prevent future disease and make you feel the best at this point in your life.
Okay, I love this disease prevention approach, because I feel like in our culture and generally as Americans, we're like, oh, something's wrong, so let's just get a pill or let's just take the shot. We're very much like point solution, right? And even our medical system is kind of developed like that, right? It's kind of like for service, for treatment.
Right.
Operation thing. So this is very different though, where you're treating the whole body. And so kind of how does somebody know that they need to see someone with a functional background versus a regular doctor?
A lot of my clients will come to me after they've seen their regular doctor, and generally what I'll hear is, my doctor said my labs look normal, you're just getting older, or there's nothing wrong with you. And women especially, because that's the subset of the population I work with, they have a gut feeling. They know something is wrong with them. They're like, what are you talking about, doctor? Like, of course, I'm not sleeping, I'm gaining weight, my hair is falling out, there's something wrong with me. So it's just that step further. Doctors obviously love doctors, a lot of them are my friends, but they really are handcuffed by time and expense. And a functional practitioner is not necessarily handcuffed by that same thing. I have 6 months to spend with my clients. I have an hour at a time. So we're able to dig a little deeper and use functional lab testing, which again, isn't diagnostic, but gives us information on hormones and food sensitivities and thyroid and gut health. So it's really, yes, preventative, but also helpful for the time being to help someone, again, move from that state of dysfunction where they can't sleep, their gut's a mess, their thyroid's a mess, to a state of function where they can take care of their kids and show up for work and make sure that they, can take care of a family and business. And life is better.
Yes. So this is great. So I think also too, do you find that your clients or this kind of approach requires something of patience as well, right?
100%.
So let's be honest. Does everyone want to do the easy route? Most likely, yes. But we have an obesity epidemic in our country, and our even here in Kern County, right? And so what does it take though to kind of own that and be like, I'm ready for change? I think that's also an aspect to this where it's like, hey, I'm gonna help you with your diet. You're gonna, like you said, you're gonna look at the thyroid, you're gonna look at all these diagnostics with the labs, but also someone has to then take the action. So that's tell me about kind of how you approach that from a functional medicine or functional nutrition standpoint. That's kind of the hard part, right? It's getting people to the place where they want to change.
Yep. And that's such a great point too. And again, a lot of people who come to someone like me, just a functional practitioner in general, they've tried it all, right? They've been to the doctor, they've done the pill for every ill.
Exactly, and they're done with the pills. They're like, I don't want to take medicine anymore for this.
Or it doesn't work, or I don't feel better, or I'm having side effects that are worse than the effects that I started with. So there's a lot of ownership, I think, that comes from being at the end of your rope, really, where you're just like, I'm not sleeping, I feel awful, I have no energy. What else is there? Because obviously this traditional medical model isn't serving me anymore. So what can I do? And at that point, when you're kind of broken, you're willing to do a lot more. Like, you'll change your diet. You might go to bed a little bit earlier. You might incorporate some foods that you weren't super excited about incorporating, in your 20s and 30s. And as you start to feel better, change begets change, right? You start sleeping better. You lose some weight. You feel like you have more energy, and you become become more willing to do some of the things that, maybe some people would see as hard, but eventually they just become habit and it's your new life.
I love this. I also like to talk about habits too, because I think habits are kind of the underpinning of our lives, right? And, shifting a habit or like a micro habit a day, or, it does make progress. Like I said, progress begets progress. And with the micro habits especially, it's like, well, of course, if your habit is to go to the donut shop and get donuts in the morning with your coffee, that's a big, like, even just being like, okay, I'm only going to get the coffee this time, and making that the new habit, that is a big shift. And some of these things do take effort, right?
Yeah, they definitely do. And so, what I'll tell my clients is start with what feels good for you. Like, maybe you don't give up the donut completely. Maybe for a week you eat half a donut. You give half a donut to a homeless person, you know? Then you eat a quarter of a donut. Then you start eating a hard-boiled egg with your quarter of a donut. And it becomes a little bit easier, as you do these things slowly. I would never ask anyone to change their entire lifestyle, like, at the beginning, because I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to ask anyone to do anything I wouldn't do.
So let's talk about diet culture, though, for a second, because people love these, like, shoot for the moon things too. Like, because we were just talking about like this incremental approach, right? It's like maybe just half the donut, have an egg with, integrate something new. Those are like baby steps. So people are like, and we'll get to the book in a second, but you even mentioned like the cabbage soup diet. You name the diet, like Atkins, all of it, right? You name the diet, people are like, well, I can go on this diet for 30 days or 2 months or 90 days, and then I'm going to be skinny, and then it's all fixed, So you're kind of saying, hey, that's really not the solution. And that's also an adjustment, I think, probably for people to hear too.
It's a mindset adjustment for sure. And honestly, a lot of those diets work. You have to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. So if losing weight is your objective, something's going to have to shift with your diet. But do you really want to do something for 30 days and then just go right back to the place where you started? Like, that's the definition of insanity. And it's exhausting. Like, it's just so tiring for women. So I would rather teach them just small little new, like you said, micro habits, 1% change every day, just layering on new things. Can you get potassium? Can you get protein? Can you just eat a couple more pieces of fruit every single week? Like, those are actionable, easy changes that you can do when you're 50, 60, 80, 100 years old, and you're not destroying your body in the meantime.
Yeah, that's great. I think also what's interesting too is like, you're saying, hey, you don't have to like shoot for the moon and like have this amazing crazy outcome, like eating one more piece of fruit, 2 more pieces. That's actually a great outcome. These are things so we're gonna take a pause here. When we come back, I wanna definitely talk about the book. When we come back, I am your host, Brooke Hernandez from Across the Valley with Jennifer Woodward, FDNP. And welcome back to Across the Valley. Today we are with Jennifer Woodward, FDNP with a master's in functional nutrition. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
When we were just now, we were talking a lot just kind of about the concept of functional nutrition, what it is, what it isn't, kind of the approach and how it's very different than maybe people have seen from their doctor or like other medical establishment approaches. So I'd love to hear, and you came on today because we were talking about your book.
Yes.
So you're a local Kern County author. We love to have people here in Kern County with us that have written books. So this book is called Easy Perimenopause. So what I'd love to hear from you, Jennifer, is tell me a little about like what kind of spurred the notion of this book, and kind of like why this book, why this topic, kind of what was your inspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big hormone nerd. All right. So I've been working with women in midlife for the past 9 years. I've worked with over 1,200 women, and I'm seeing the same patterns crop up again and again and again on social media, in my emails. People are, trying to get a hold of me, asking, "Can you help me? I have PCOS. I have insulin resistance. I need to lose some weight. I have weird periods." And of course, I want to help all those women, but as you know, functional medicine, functional nutrition is not covered by insurance. Right. It is expensive. The lab tests are expensive. Seeing a practitioner is expensive. And so I wanted to write this book because every woman can afford it. Every woman deserves to have access to this information. I don't want to gatekeep it for women. I want everyone to walk around feeling a little bit better, taking better care of their family, showing up for work a little bit easier. The information there is cutting edge functional nutrition, but it's accessible for anyone.
Oh, I love that. Because when we talk about functional nutrition, what we mean is food is medicine. A lot of it is just kind of changing up what you're eating, your dietary habits, some other habits as well, maybe taking some supplements, things like that are not necessarily but it's not a quick fix.
Right.
So that's also like a challenge sometimes for people. But let's just talk for a second about perimenopause. First of all, what is perimenopause? I mean, like, I think people know it, maybe they don't know it, but people think menopause. But what's perimenopause?
This is a very good distinction. We have to define our terms, right?
Yeah.
Perimenopause is essentially the 15-year period around menopause. So these symptoms can crop up for up to 15 years. Now, menopause is defined as having no period for 12 months. So complete cessation of your menstrual cycle for 12 months, you're officially in menopause. But it can start at, age 35, age 40, that 8 to 15-year period where you start getting, hot flashes, your hair starts falling out, you get itchy, you've got weight gain, especially around your belly, you can't sleep at night, your periods start getting weird, and women are like, what's going on? I feel like I'm in puberty again. And again, doctors, don't tell you necessarily what's going on because there's no diagnosis for perimenopause. It's just a description of this time in life that is associated with particular symptoms.
Right. And so when you go to your doctor and you say, I'm having these symptoms, they just kind of like shrug and they go,
sorry, that sucks.
Right. So then what to do? So what are the kind of the first things to think about when we think about that you have in your book, this concept of the overs, and maybe it's like this 15-year window of things, starting to change, and maybe not grasping the severity of like the changes happening that are maybe things you were doing before to kind of control your weight or like change how you were feeling about yourself. Those aren't working anymore. Yeah. So tell me about like how that breaks down.
Right. So the concept of the overs, which I talk about in the book, is the impetus. Like, why are women suffering from these really awful perimenopause symptoms to begin with? Because historically, we haven't even had a word for perimenopause, right?
Okay.
In other cultures, women don't necessarily suffer from perimenopause the same way that Western women do. And so, my theory and what I propose in the book is that women are basically victims of what I call the overs, right? So overstressing, over-dieting, over-exercising, and over-tired. Right. Okay. So we kind of do it to ourselves, and we don't mean to. Like we're all, we're trying to do the best we can, but that stress of too much for too long just starts to break the body down hormonally. And to your point where you're like, in your 20s, you could have a salad, you could do a little bit more running, and your weight's going to come off and you're going to feel more energized. But that just doesn't work anymore. In your 40s, it stops working. You have to try different, not harder.
Interesting. Because I think that's kind of the move. People love to think, well, I just got to try harder at this. I got to, instead of like one jog a day, I've got to do 2, or something like that. And then like you're saying, it stops working. So the overs. So tell me more again, so go through those one more time. Sure. The overs are?
Overstressing, over-dieting, over-exercising, and being overtired, robbing yourself of sleep.
Okay. So tell me, let's dive into each of those. And let's start with the last one. Sleep. Can you tell me why sleep is so important for managing your perimenopausal 15-year window?
Yes, absolutely. So if we don't get enough sleep, it starts to degrade our hormone cascade. So all of our hormones in our body are made while we're sleeping, right? Notably, insulin and cortisol and melatonin. The body has this circadian rhythm clock, and it's secreting a lot of its hormones and doing a lot of the work of detoxification while we're asleep at night. And so if we stay up till 12 or 1 in the morning, which a lot of women do because they're like, it's my me time, it's the only time I get. Or they're waking up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning to go to Orange Theory or CrossFit or go train for a half marathon. They aren't getting that time for detoxification of the body and then also the brain, and they aren't making proper hormones. So there's lots of research that, that's in the book that talks about women who shortchange sleep, even if they eat a perfect diet, still can put on weight and experience some insulin resistance because their circadian rhythm is so off that their bodies are not metabolically healthy.
Okay, so what I love about this conversation around sleep is that it sounds so easy, right? Yeah. If you just fix the one sleep thing, everything else will improve. But why is it so hard? It's because we have such a complex life and are so busy and stuff, and we just don't realize the importance of it, or it's hard to prioritize. I guess I just feel like the sleep thing is like, oh, I sleep fine. I'm fine. You know, like people are, oh, yeah, I got it under control. And it's like, no, if you actually go to sleep at the same time every single night and wake up at the same, you know, in the morning at the same time, but you're getting your 8 hours, or you're getting your whatever your body needs. Some people need more, some people need less. So all that is like you just said, you could have the world's perfect diet.
Yep.
And if your sleep cycle is messed up, you're not going to see the results.
100%. And it's different for women. Some women, they choose not to sleep because they either think they don't need a lot of sleep, or they've got pressing things to do. And then some women, perimenopausal women of note, just can't sleep. You know, they try to fall asleep and their heart's pounding, or they are up for like an hour before their bodies actually let them fall asleep, or they wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. in the morning. Yep. Sometimes with night sweats, sometimes not night sweats, but they just can't sleep. They can't sleep.
Okay, we're gonna take a break right there. When we come back, I am your host, Brooke Hernandez from across the valley. We are here today with Jennifer Woodward, FDNP, and Master's in Functional Nutrition. When we come back. And welcome back to Across the Valley. I am your host, Brooke Hernandez. Today we are with Jennifer Woodward, FDNP, with the Master's in Functional Nutrition. Welcome back to the show. Having a great time talking about your book, Easy Perimenopause. We were just talking about what we call the 4 overs. Okay, can you go over them one more time? What are the 4?
Yep. Over stressing, over dieting, over exercising, and being overtired.
Let's take the one you just said from the top, over stress.
Yep.
What is that, and how do we manage that? What does that all mean?
A lot of women don't feel stressed necessarily, but the lifestyle that we live is a stressful lifestyle. We get up early, we skip breakfast, we drink coffee on an empty stomach, we run from here, there, everywhere, skipping meals. Then we go to carpool and night things with the kids, and we don't eat a good lunch or dinner. And by 4 o'clock, so many women are, you know, in the pantry, guzzling wine, eating chips and salsa. Cookies. They're they're overstressed. I mean, there's no point in that day where they slow down and take a breath. And so all of the stress of their day tends to culminate, you know, 4, 5, 6, 10 p.m. So they overeat and they can't go to sleep. And that's really one of the cruxes of, you know, Easy Perimenopause. Can we pull you out of that fight or flight mode every single day, just a little bit, so that your body can calm down?
Because your body needs to calm down at night and repair itself.
It does.
And the hormones need to get realigned overnight.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, but how do you do that? Like, it's like we talk about stress. Like, how does one
manage your stress?
Yeah,
there's a ton in the book about stress management.
Okay.
So a couple of things that are easy for most women to start with. Just the simple act of eating food calms down cortisol. Cortisol is our main stress hormone. So many women, they're dieting, they're skipping meals, they're drinking coffee on an empty stomach, and their cortisol levels, their stress levels are rising all day long. And that's going to lead to a whole host of symptoms too: weight gain, hair falling out, irregular periods, rapid heartbeat. We don't want that. So if a woman just eats breakfast, eats lunch, and eats dinner, all of a sudden her cortisol levels are going to start lowering. That's one easy fix. You can use minerals as well, specifically potassium. But I have a couple of other, you know, exercises in there. If you're sitting in the carpool line, if you're, you know, you've got 2 minutes to like be in the bathroom all by yourself, you know, putting on your makeup, use breath work. You know, breathe in, hold your breath, breathe out. This is a really simple, free, effective tool for lowering cortisol. I love my Epsom salt baths. I have a whole recipe section for Epsom salt baths. This is really calming to the body because magnesium is a mineral we need to reduce stress. And a lot of women are deficient in magnesium. So those 2 things, you know, the breath work and then taking a bath, can be helpful physical ways to reduce cortisol and get out of fight or flight mode. And then eating food, especially protein and potassium, is another way that women can lower their stress levels on the daily.
Okay, I love this. Eating food is the solution because it's counterintuitive for our over dieting culture. We love to think that we have to like be depriving ourselves or skipping meals to lose weight.
Right.
But you said that's not going to work for us anymore.
It's not going to work in perimenopause.
Great. So now you have this other thing that you mentioned too with the 2 key ingredients for a healthy lifestyle to manage perimenopause. What are those two things? And let's talk about those two things.
Let's talk about them. So, we can group those 3 P's together. Perimenopause needs more protein and more potassium.
The 3 P's. If you're in perimenopause, you need protein and potassium.
Exactly right.
Tell me why.
Yep. So women have a deficiency in potassium. There's a study that was just put out in 2022 that shows that women on average eat about 68 grams of protein a day. Really, our bodies have an abundant need for protein, dietary protein. Usually women need about 100 grams of protein a day, and this is women who have been dieting their whole life and exercising their whole life and really deficient in protein. Our neurotransmitters, our brain chemicals are made of protein. Our gut lining is made of protein. Our body uses proteins to make enzymes, and we're deficient in all of those if we're not eating enough animal protein. So I tell my women, try to get about 100 grams of animal protein a day. It's more easily digestible. The body recognizes it better, and it really is better for you hormonally, because it's also got a little bit of fat in it, and our hormones are made from fat, from cholesterol.
Okay.
So you've got tons of recipes in the book, 14 days of a full meal plan that breaks down by macros, calories, and easy to prepare instructions.
Great.
And the second one's potassium.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, potassium is just, it's a mineral that our body really dumps during times of stress.
Oh.
And we are all stressed out. So the RDA for potassium used to be 4,700 milligrams a day. Since I think 2021, that's been done away with. But I have a researcher in the book that I'm really fond of, Marty Kendall, who has anecdotal evidence and clinical evidence from tens of thousands of subjects that show when women get about 6,700 milligrams of potassium a day, they spontaneously eat up to 43% fewer calories. Let that blow your mind for a second.
Okay, so all I have to do all I've got to do is get potassium, and magically I'm not hungry anymore?
There's a few things that have to go along with that, but it's one of the huge things. That so many of my clients are like, I'm getting my potassium and I can tell a difference in my cravings.
Okay, you heard it here first. Hit the potassium, hit the protein, and then your cravings will be well managed.
And they start to dissipate for sure.
But it takes time.
Yes, because you're nourished finally, right? There's the protein leverage hypothesis and micronutrient leverage hypothesis. Both say we continue to seek out food, and it's usually like tortilla chips and cookies, until we meet the standard that our body needs for protein and minerals. So if you find yourself just eating and eating and eating, ask yourself, have I gotten enough protein today? Have I gotten enough potassium today? You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just malnourished. Okay.
Well, I mean, we don't think of it like that, though.
Right.
We think, oh, we're on a diet.
Yeah.
Right. I'm on a diet. I'm on a diet, or I'm gonna go to take a second, Orange Theory class or whatever, like very high intensity workout to get this weight off.
Yep.
But a lot of this sounds pretty practical and simple.
I know.
But it's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
Yeah.
So you just want to make new habits. Read the book, choose one thing you want to work on this week. Try to get 10 grams of animal protein at breakfast, right? Choose something else next week. Try to do some breath work when you're in the car for a minute a day, right? Just start building these new healthy habits, and suddenly you're going to feel better. You're going to be sleeping better. Your energy is going to go up. You're going to start losing some weight. Your period's going to become more normal.
Yep.
And that, as we talked about, change begets change. You're going to want to do more things when you start feeling better.
Yeah, that's great. And like you said, it's sometimes it's just one little micro habit, just one thing. We don't have to boil the ocean. We don't have to do all the things in the book tomorrow.
Nope.
We have to try one at a time.
Just little baby steps.
Okay, baby steps, great. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I learned so much, and I'm so proud of you for doing this book. Thank you for putting this together to help all of us manage this process, because it's going to happen to everyone, right?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Until next week, I'm your host, Brooke Hernandez from across the valley.